Let me get notifications out to everyone that I'm finally live. And then we'll get started. Today we're going to talk a little bit about um, fiber and a little bit more about insulin resistance. I wanted to talk about a lot more today, including fat cells, how that's growing and why that's different for everybody. But it just is too much for one day. So we'll talk about that on Monday, fat storage. But I do want to go over insulin resistance today. So I'm going to start by explaining it. And again, I want everyone to understand. Yeah, there are a couple of other ways that insulin resistance can get kicked off by stress, by inflammation. But the number one way that's causing us to have this insulin problem right now is constantly having a large amount of carbohydrates in our food and eating all day long, every 2 hours. Our bodies just weren't built for it. And we're going to go over all of that today so you guys can understand what's happening to you and why you're not being diagnosed earlier and what really can help. So I do have a more natural solution, you guys. We're going to talk about what's really happening with some of those pills and whatnot, but let's start off with the insulin, okay? So you might be feeling frustrated with the constant battle of energy levels, weight gain, feeling like something's just not right in your body. And that's where most people start. They don't know that this is insulin resistance. They just see weight coming on and they're feeling like something's just not right. Something has just changed in my body and I really can't pinpoint it. And you're going to the doctor and you're having blood tests run and nobody's really giving you answers. Or maybe you're not even going in because you know that you're not really going to get answers, or you feel like it's not that big of a deal. Okay, so what you're dealing with is likely insulin resistance. 93% of us, according to a 2022 study from Tufts University, have a cardiometabolic disorder. 93% of us. 99% of us, according to a lot of I'm just going to call them metabolic scientists, have some kind of insulin disorder. It just maybe has not gotten bad enough to be called a cardiometabolic disorder, like metabolic diseases and whatnot. Hey, Lacey, how are you? And welcome in, everybody. I'm on a couple of different platforms, so you'll see me kind of looking back and forth. But here's the thing. What the truth is what's going on with most of us, with most of our health today, is that we're dealing with that insulin resistance in the body. And what that really is a response to chronic and high levels of insulin that we're eating, or glucose that we're eating, that's causing high levels of insulin. So what causes glucose? Well, do you know that even some proteins can cause a slight amount of glucose rise in your body? That's normal, that's natural. But what's happening today is not only are we getting the fruits and vegetables, which spike your glucose, those fruits and vegetables don't have something on them called fiber like they used to, because it's been stripped out. Fiber makes things tougher to chew and it makes it more bitter. And so the food industry has just stripped it out to give us, things that taste juicier. So you're getting nutrients, but you're not getting the thing that's slowing down blood sugars. The interesting thing here is that as your insulin resistance goes up, those nutrients that you think you're trying to get in are not being absorbed into the body like they should. Hey, Kenley, good afternoon, you guys. So it's a problem, right? When you think you're trying to feed yourself healthy, it might not be helping. So let's break it down just a little bit more. When we consume carbs, whether it's the bagged box barcoded, the rice, the grains, potatoes, root vegetables, or the above ground ones, what we're really doing is we're giving our body energy, and our body is breaking down those foods into something called glucose, which is that source of energy in the body. The brain uses it, the body uses it. Every single cell in the body has an insulin receptor on it. Insulin is just delivering that energy to the cells. Glucose, energy source. Insulin is the hormone that we create to deliver the energy. That's what its job is, to take that energy and deliver it to the cells. But we've disrupted what our bodies can look like with that because we're eating so much of the carbohydrates so often, and we're not getting in enough fiber anymore to deal with them. Nature put fiber on our carbohydrates for a reason, and that was to slow down glucose spikes, or this glucose getting into the blood system too quickly. Okay. So normally insulin is shuttling that glucose into your cells for fuel. But when we eat too many carbs too often, over time, your body's cells start to become less responsive to insulin. They're like, yeah, no, I'm tired of you knocking on my door. I don't want you. Not today. Go away. We're just not taking in that energy. So that's insulin resistance. Now, instead of getting energy into the cells in the form of glucose, I have comments. You're getting the glucose is staying in the bloodstream. So now what's happening is insulin has to find a place to store it because we're continuing to eat, increasing that glucose. Just a little piece to hold on to. We're not going to go into detail about it today. I've been told by the doctors that I worked with, and in all the research I've been doing, I feel like this is true. That excess glucose in your bloodstream, it starts to make your blood thick, but it also starts to act like shards of glass, so it's cutting up your bloodstream. So of course, your body's like, hey, we got to get this sugar out of the bloodstream. So insulin is like, okay, well, I'm going to start shuttling it over to the storage unit because none of the cells seem to be answering. They won't let me deliver this energy. And that storage unit is your fat cells. So this is where energy starts getting stored as fat. That's insulin resistance causing, or high levels of insulin causing you to start storing fat. Also understand that insulin is anabolic. It wants to hold on to things. So insulin does not like you to burn fat when it's present in your body. And there's this other thing. When you eat, every time you eat, about 2 hours later, your body has to go through this processing stage, right? And then the sugar starts to hit your bloodstream. That's about 2 hours later. It takes about another 2 hours for that insulin to start delivering all of that. So what do you guys think is happening every time you're eating every 2 hours? You're constantly putting more and more sugar into your bloodstream, requiring more and more insulin, requiring your insulin to stay high all the time. Now, if insulin is anabolic and it wants things to grow and it wants to hold on to things, that means you can't start breaking down fat. And we'll have a conversation about fat on Monday because there's some really interesting stuff with that and insulin resistance. But so now instead of getting energy into the cells where it's needed, that glucose has stayed in the bloodstream. That's making you feel sluggish and tired and hungrier than usual. And then it's eventually going into your fat cells, and now you're gaining weight, and that whole cycle is getting worse. Okay. Your body's constantly trying to rescue you from all of this glucose that we're eating by calling on insulin to process the glucose, but the insulin is being ignored by your cells. So think about it like trying to drive your car and you have the brake on all the time. You're pulling the handbrake and you're hitting the gas pedal. Pulling the handbrake, hitting the gas pedal. That's kind of what's happening with you with insulin resistance. You're revving your engine, but you're really not getting anywhere. So you can press the gas pedal all you want, but the car's just not moving. And that's what situation your body is in with insulin resistance. Insulin's trying to get you moving, but the cells aren't responding the way they should. And then what happens? It's getting stored as excess fat that leads to weight gain, and especially around the belly. With insulin resistance, there's a change in your brain and in your liver, and your body saying, store this stuff as visceral fat instead of just the fat all over the body. So before you build when you have high levels of insulin, maybe you're storing more subcutaneous fat, the jiggly stuff nobody likes. But as you start to become more insulin resistant, your body's storing more and more under the muscle wall of the belly. So if you think from your groin, and this actually goes all the way up to your throat and your tongue, you're storing more fat in those areas. So if you have a bulging belly, whether you're heavy or thin, that's probably insulin resistance. So I'm going to give you another analogy. So think about your body like a factory that's running on energy, okay? Normally, the workers or your cells take the raw materials in so they can do their job. That's the glucose. And then they turn them into products, which is your energy. But if that factory keeps getting deliveries of raw materials, your carbohydrates, without the workers being able to handle them, without them being able to process them, then it ends up in a massive backlog. Okay. And the factory starts stashing those materials or glucose into storage spaces called your fat cells because there's no room to process it. And the workers just can't keep up. Your cells can't keep up with the raw materials you're bringing in. That's why you see your weight creep up, even if you're working out and eating right when you have insulin resistance. Ron, thank you so much. I certainly appreciate you guys' interaction and the gifts you all send me. I get so focused on talking, but I appreciate every one of you who's in here. Okay, so what do you do? Well, I already mentioned it a little bit, and we're going to get into a source that actually really helps, and that's fiber. So fiber slows down the absorption of that glucose, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're getting less sugar in all the time, but what it means is we're not getting that sugar in a high hit load. You're not getting that sugar in all at once. You're getting the sugar in, and it's more time release. You're getting it in slower. Okay. Fiber is doing that. But guess what? Fiber's been stripped from most of our foods, especially the bagged, boxed, barcoded foods, right? The stuff you buy at the grocery store. But what most people don't get is that even in our produce, they've been so modified, especially here in the US, that we're just not getting in the fiber that we need to deal with the glucose that's still present in those fruits and vegetables and grains. The grains we've stripped everything out of grains to get to the little starchy part in the middle that's really converting into glucose and making you even more hungry. By the way, all of this makes you more hungry. So while carbs give you energy, what we need to understand is that our body also historically thought of them as like a rescue source of energy or a storage source of energy. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But it's time to let go of the handbrake and let your body move forward again. So if you're feeling frustrated and stuck and you don't seem to think you can break free, hang on, because I'm going to talk about the solution in a minute. If you don't want to hang out and you just want to get there, go to my profile, and the links are on every one of my profiles. You can just get there for a source that's scientifically designed for this problem. Okay. So I know you're feeling frustrated and you're stuck in a cycle you just can't seem to break free from, and you have constant energy lows, you have weight gain, you have other nagging health issues, and you're trying to do everything right, but all along it feels like something's just not clicking. If you're like me, I was doing all the things and it just felt like nothing was happening. I wasn't getting anywhere. I was following all the suggestions and the naturopaths and all the stuff, all the little supplements here and there, and nothing was happening. And I was frustrated. And let's put a 1 in the chat if you've gotten so frustrated that you've just said, in my mind, I'm going to swear a little, in my mind, I said, what the hell? Nothing else is effing working. I'm doing all the things. I just want to enjoy my life. So if I'm not going to get better, I'm just going to do what I love. I'm going to have the donut. I'm going to have the ice cream. I'm going to have whatever, because it doesn't matter whether I have it or not. I'm still sick. And then the problem is getting worse because you're not getting real answers. I'm going to give you some answers. And thank you, Marthelli. All right. So why all of this is important, I want you to understand insulin resistance isn't just about diabetes. And we're going to talk about some flaws with that too. But there's a whole list above. Okay. All of those things are linked to insulin resistance. If you've been suffering with those things and you haven't been getting answers, it's because they're not addressing that the root of almost all of those things is insulin resistance. It's messing with your hormones. It's messing with and I'm talking about your hunger and satiety hormones, your brain functioning hormones, your sex hormones. This high level of insulin and your cells not being able to take in energy is creating a situation where your other hormones are out of whack too. And so you're suffering and nobody's giving you the real answer. And that real answer happens to be insulin resistance. Science is leaning in more to it. But things like heart disease, thyroid problems, joint problems, migraines, energy lows, memory problems, and fertility issues, they all are linked to insulin resistance. Jason, I saw you hop in. I'm so glad to see you on more. And maybe it's just because I'm on more that I'm seeing you more. All right. So remember that all of this is because of high levels of glucose that's creating high levels of insulin that's circulating in your body, and that can cause inflammation. I'm going to talk more about how insulin resistance is causing inflammation on Monday, so I won't have time to fit it all in today. But I'm going to go into depth with that. So if you've ever wondered, well, she says inflammation is caused by insulin resistance. We're going to talk about it Monday. So see me Monday and we'll talk about that. But really what's happening is your body just can't process everything the way it's supposed to. And all your systems are starting to break down as a result. Now, a couple of other cues you might be insulin resistant. If you're seeing skin tags on your neck, if you're seeing on your underarms and you're going anywhere on your body, skin tags are one of the cues of insulin resistance. Dark skin patches, whether they're that ring around your neck. I had melasma really bad. I had dark patches on my elbows and on my knees. That's a sign of insulin resistance. If you see those and you haven't been told, oh, your blood sugar is too high or any of that, understand that you're already experiencing insulin resistance. It just hasn't been caught yet. Migraine headaches, that bulging belly, PCOS, low testosterone, erectile dysfunction, those are all early signs of insulin resistance. People will say, oh no, sorry guys, I'm going to talk about erectile dysfunction. But people will say, oh no, it's anxiety or it's trauma or it's whatever. That can be true. But you know what's making that worse and where a lot of the problem can really be is in the reduced blood flow that's caused because insulin resistance is messing with the cells, especially the cells inside your blood vessels. So we'll talk about that another day. All right. So, but just remember that fiber is the key to getting those blood sugar levels down. Now, why are you not being diagnosed with it, you guys? Why? Does anybody wonder why? Okay, I'm hearing about insulin resistance, but nobody's telling me, why haven't I been diagnosed? I've been going to the doctor for years. If you're like me, I've been going in with all these things and nobody addressed it. Nobody said, oh, this is the problem. Two things are happening, or a number of things are happening. First of all, our current medical system, especially in the US, is compartmentalized. Doctors are pushed into specialties. So you come into a doctor and a general practitioner then is taught to send you out to a specialist to address those headaches, to address the blood pressure, to address your joint problems, to address your hair falling out, to address your PCOS. But you're going to all these different doctors. Nobody's putting together that, hey, this person has all of these symptoms and the one thing that's linked is insulin resistance. Let's talk to them about nutrition because your doctors do not have a mandatory nutrition class. And more than 80% of doctors in the US do not ever take a nutrition fast. Kevin, can a fast help with that? So I fast daily in conjunction with the tools I use. So we'll talk about fasting some more next week, but absolutely fasting is necessary to help get your insulin levels down. But when you are eating, you want to keep your insulin levels down because if you let them spike too high, they take longer to come down and then it takes longer for you to get into that beneficial part of your fast. And we should all be fasting a little bit. We're going to cover that in a second. Our bodies just were not built to eat like we're eating today. We were not built to wake up at 6 in the morning and have food and be eating food until midnight and then eat every 2 hours. By the way, you guys, a little statistic. One of the metabolic scientists I listened to said they did some studying, and the people who were being told to eat every 2 hours, who thought, oh, I'm just eating small meals every 2 hours, when they followed them, they were actually eating 16 times a day. 16 times a day. So remember, when you eat, up goes your glucose, up goes your insulin. Now you're building insulin resistance. And is eating every 2 hours really going to help you address all of these issues? And Kevin says, I'm thinking about a carnivore diet, and I wish that I could commit to a carnivore diet because I would probably do it too. So yeah, carnivore diet can be really helpful. But for the rest of us who just don't feel we can afford it or we're not there yet, I'm going to give you a solution that's going to help because it doesn't have to be ice cream, cakes, and cookies. Maybe you just want to have an orange once in a while. Maybe you want to have some of the other fruits that we eat. There's still fructose and glucose. We still need fiber to slow that down. By the way, the fructose in fruits puts a huge load on your liver, and that is leading to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease because we're overusing fruits today. Okay, so here's what's really happening and why it's not being caught. Okay, so for years, the focus, hey Trap, the focus of diabetes management has been that blood glucose level, right? So the issue is that glucose is not the problem. The problem is high insulin levels. Okay. And I know they're linked, but what we're not measuring is your insulin levels. So, insulin resistance, when your body cells stop responding to the insulin because of is being pushed too high because of glucose, your body is producing more and more insulin to compensate. The cells are saying no. It's going into your fat cells when the fat cells are like, yo, I'm full. I can't take anymore. Um, then you end up with excess glucose in your bloodstream. So it could be 10, 20 years of insulin problems, and all the while your health is starting to fail before your glucose levels are ever high. And now it's being caught. Now they're like, aha, you have diabetes. And now they start putting everything together. So why is that? If insulin is the thing we should be measuring, why are we not measuring insulin? Why are we measuring glucose? Okay. Because there currently is no pill that you can be given to reduce your insulin. Guess what? There are pills they can give you to reduce your blood glucose. It also explains why more and more the blood sugar levels that were much higher 50, 60 years ago, and I'm sorry I don't have the numbers for those right now, but the range before they considered you diabetic was much higher years ago, and now that range is coming down. Now, one train of thought is the reason that they're lowering that is because all this insulin resistance talk is coming out, and they don't have anything that they can give you like this, the pills and stuff for insulin. So they're like, oh well, if we can address blood sugars, if we can start addressing blood sugars at maybe 180 or 200, we can give them a pill quicker. Let's talk about that though. Okay. So when you treat your blood glucose levels and you're not treating your insulin, you're making the problem worse. So if you're type 2 diabetic, and this is not from my mouth, this is from Dr. Ben Bickman, who is one of the top metabolic scientists in the world. He says when doctors give a type 2 diabetic insulin, they're making them sicker quicker, they're making them fatter quicker, and they're killing them quicker. If you already have a problem with insulin and you're being given more insulin, doesn't that seem like the wrong way about it? So if you had an alcoholic and you were trying to treat them, do you really think that you go like, I'm going to bring you into clinic and I'm going to give you a rack of beer. I'm going to give you a fifth of whiskey and I want you to drink that every day. That's gonna solve your issues that you're having, and it's gonna make you feel great. You're gonna have to drink more of it eventually to start feeling better again, but that's how we're gonna treat your alcoholism. Yeah, that's what we're doing with insulin resistance. Insulin is not, for a type 2 diabetic, is not the answer to addressing your insulin resistance. Now, type 1s need insulin, but they can become insulin resistant too. So this is important for everybody. So a fiber supplement, Kevin, yes, and I'm going to talk about the fiber supplement that actually is designed to work for this, because not every fiber is the same. You guys got to understand that. Just like if we were to say all fruits are the same, then you'd be saying pineapple, bananas, apples, oranges, pears, berries are all the same, right? They all taste the same. Fiber is the same way. Every strand of fiber has a different purpose in the body. And I'm not going to get into all the strands, but you need to know that there's this big thing out there that we need more fiber. The recommendations we have for fiber today are based on that, we're getting a lot of one type and maybe we're not getting a variety of fibers in. So the average recommendation is 30 grams of fiber, yet most of us are getting 10 to 15, and we're going to talk about that. Let's get back to the medications. So remember, they're testing your glucose because they can treat it with a medication. And yet, what you guys are not understanding is that many of those medications, like sulfonylureas and meglitinides, so things like glipizide, glyburide, repaglinide, and nataglinide, they all do this thing in your body. What they're doing is they're driving your sugar levels low by making your insulin levels higher. Those are traditional treatments. So now when you have those pills, or however they're giving them to you, what you're doing is you're increasing your insulin level to try and get the glucose level down. But remember, yeah, we want to get the glucose level down, but the end result is we want the insulin levels down. And that's not how they're addressing it right now. They're addressing it by just like, hey, if we get the glucose levels down, we can say we did our job, and we can send them on the way, and we did everything we're supposed to, but you're still sick and you're still suffering with heart problems and memory problems and energy problems and joint problems and bleeding teeth and gums and hair that's falling out and skin tags and all the other stuff, because nobody's addressing the insulin. So if you guys want, then I will give you some calculations, or a major calculation you can use with the blood work you should already have to understand if you're insulin resistant. Okay. If you guys want that, you ask me for it and I'll give you that. But so what's happening with those medications that are just addressing blood sugars is it's creating more weight gain. So your blood sugars are coming down, but you're having more weight gain, because remember, insulin doesn't want to get rid of things, it wants to store it. So it's grabbing everything and storing it as blood sugar. That's part of how it's getting the blood sugar out of your bloodstream, is forcing it into the fat cells. Doesn't mean that it's getting it into the cells necessarily, okay? That, and I'm going to talk about how that excess storage of fat cells on Monday causes inflammation. Hey, Fox. It's also creating a higher risk for heart disease. So weight gain, inflammation, higher risk for heart disease, all from those things. And it doesn't have to be that way. And that can create those things that are reducing the blood sugar and not addressing the insulin, can create a dangerous cycle where your insulin levels are continuing to rise, even though your glucose, thanks, Fox, even though your glucose levels might look better on paper, but your underlying issue of insulin resistance is remaining untreated, leaving you exposed long-term complications that are associated with insulin resistance, like heart disease, fatty liver, kidney damage, neuropathy, vision problems, hormonal imbalances, and all the rest. So they may be getting the sugar out of your blood, but they're not addressing the insulin, so you're still experiencing all of that. Does that sound like the way you want to go? My blood sugars look normal. And you guys, I say this because I worked in medical clinics. I was an athlete, and we tested my blood more than once a year. And I was always like, my blood sugars aren't high, I'm great. My blood sugars aren't high, I'm healthy. And yet I wasn't, because my joints were failing, my hair was falling out, I was having memory problems, I ached all over, I didn't have any energy. All of these things were happening to my body that I didn't understand. So the doctors weren't catching it, and I was getting sicker and sicker, and I had blood pressure that was high since my mid-30s, actually it was my late 20s. So from my late 20s till I was about 57, my blood pressure was unregulated, even though they were trying therapy after therapy after therapy, and nothing was working. And why wasn't it working? Because they were giving me pills, but they weren't addressing the fact that it's insulin resistance. So PETA says, I'm not diabetic, but I have stubborn belly fat and horrible cravings for sweets, especially chocolate. So when you have this dysregulation between insulin and your blood sugars, you're going to feel hungry all the time. This is the problem, you guys. The more we eat sugars, the more hungry we become. We're building this resistance, and we're building this space where we're just not getting you have high blood pressure because of Adderall. And do you know that I'm not telling you to stop taking Adderall, but insulin resistance can exacerbate ADHD. I have ADHD and autism and PTSD. They're all pretty well linked for me, but getting all of this under control helped all of that for me. So blood pressure, don't take the meds. PETA, that's good. I was on 13 different medications, and I'm not on any medications. I haven't filled a prescription since about 3 months after I started the protocol I'm going to talk about. So we'll talk about, you can test your insulin. You want to do an HOMAIR, which is a homeostatic model of assessment for insulin resistance. So they're combining an insulin level and a blood sugar level to give you a result to help you tell. But I'll give you a simpler method in a little bit. So let's talk about this medication thing. So I want you to think about your body like a company. Insulin's one of your most important employees. And that employee's job is to make sure that glucose, the energy your body uses, gets to the cells so everything runs smoothly. Now, in a healthy company, insulin or the employee is highly efficient. When glucose is available, insulin gets to work and helps it move into the cells for energy. But when insulin resistance sets in, it's like your best employee is underperforming. They're not doing their job anymore. They're not doing it properly. And the glucose is starting to pile up and it can't get to the cells efficiently. So that's what's happening when you're doing medications to address your glucose and not addressing your insulin resistance. Sorry, there's tons of stuff going on over here, so I might have to wrap it up because I think the family is needing me for some stuff today. But so I want you to just think about it. I don't want to go against, I'm not going to prescribe anything. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but just think about that point. If you're on one of those medications, think about what's really happening and think about, I've had so many people like me started the system and then was able to wean off of the medications. I actually walked up one day in frustration, probably my autism, but I just looked at these 13 medications on my counter and said, F this, I'm not doing it anymore. I pulled up the trash can, I dumped all the medications in, and I never took them again. I'm not recommending anyone else do that, but that was almost 4 years ago, and I don't have any medications now. So internal inflammation affect that as well, because I did cut out overly processed oil. Kevin, I'm glad you brought that up. Seed oils, the oils, I want you to be aware of the oils that are in light plastic bottles. They are toxic to you. They're causing inflammation. They're high in perfumes. If they weren't perfumed and bleached, you wouldn't want to use them because they would be so stinky. They were originally developed by Rockefeller as a machine oil, and we're using them as food. Okay. But sugar is the bigger part. Okay. And Fox, yes. You have a bad habit of eating sugary food for first thing in the morning. You got to get over that. You guys understand that the first thing you eat in the morning is what you're setting your body up to run on for the day. And especially if you've gone through some intermittent fasting, the first thing you want to eat is meat and eggs, proteins and fats. What you're doing is you're prolonging that fast a little bit because your body's still able to run on fat for fuel and not glucose for fuel. You're not spiking your insulin way high again, and you're not hungry as much as quick. Protein is the highest satiating food you can eat. You want to stay full and stop snacking? Have protein at your first meal. Protein does start to spike your insulin though. And then fats are the next thing. So coconut oil, olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, butter, ghee, the fats on your meats, the yolks in your eggs, those are going to help you stay full the next most, okay? Carbohydrates really don't satiate you. They give you short-term energy, but they leave you feeling hungry again. So if you wake up in the morning eating sugary foods, you'll notice that you're hungry again right away. Within a half an hour, you're hungry again, and you're just snacking all day long. We've got to switch that around, you guys. You do your fast. You eat some fats and proteins first, and then you'll stay fuller longer. You'll help yourself get through the part of the fast that's really beneficial, where your body's starting to burn fat for fuel, where your body's starting to use up junk cells, where your body has growth hormone coming out, where it has the ketones coming out. And by the way, your brain loves ketones for fuel. We have our brains trained to use sugar for fuel, and that's part of why we have brain fog and migraines and ADHD and autism, and all these things get worsened by it. Instant oatmeal is still high in carbohydrate. It's got some fiber, but it's still going to spike your glucose. I wouldn't do instant oatmeal in the morning. You want to do it after dinner as a dessert, have it, but don't do it in the morning. Protein and fats are what you need to have in the morning. Exercise and meditation is also important. Yeah. So you guys, I do have, if you go on any of the channels, I have a little ebook that I made for everybody called 6 Simple Steps to Managing Your Insulin Resistance. We'll talk about those steps. It's fiber first, which we're going to talk about the fiber right about now. Then it's prioritize protein, fill with fats, limit your carbs. Then it's do some time-based eating or intermittent fasting, and then it's move your body. But I've added a couple of things in there. So getting your stress levels down is a bonus, and sleeping well is a bonus. You guys know that blue light exposure actually changes some chemicals that are making you more likely to have high cortisol levels and high insulin levels. Eek. These are blue light blocking glasses. You see the blue light? Start wearing more if you have to wear glasses, or even if you don't wear glasses, wear blue light blocking glasses if you're in front of the computer all the time, because they're starting to show that that even is causing more likelihood of insulin resistance. Okay, so let's get back to the fiber part, you guys. I want to talk about that really quick because I do have to run here short. Oh man, that's why. So what happens with fiber is fiber can slow down the blood sugar delivery. Okay, the specific fiber I'm talking about, because not every fiber works the same, is in my profile, and it comes like this. I just dump it in water. It's easy to pack in my purse, keep around, and I just dump it in water and drink it down in cold water really quickly, because it's going to thicken up. There's soluble and insoluble fibers in it. The soluble fibers are helping wrap around that food as it's digesting, slowing down the delivery of sugars into your bloodstream. These are fibers that have been missing, and there's very specific fibers. We have a team of scientists who have gone through and said, what fibers affect blood sugar levels the most? So that little packet can reduce a blood sugar spike by up to 40% when I have a high carbohydrate meal. I have the packet multiple times a day because not only is it good to keep my blood sugar levels down, it's good to get my gut microbiome higher. So there's a lot of questions over here about inflammation. Well, if your gut is inflamed and you have way too much sugar, so I'm going to talk Monday about inflammation as related to fat. But every time every time we're putting sugar into our body, we're also feeding our gut microbiome, right? And so our gut microbiome is popping up with more of these negative microbes like yeast. So if you're having itchy skin, especially in that personal area, ladies, if you're having infections a lot, men, if you're getting jock itch a lot, it's probably an overload of yeast, and it's probably because of the amount of sugar that you're drinking. Yes, there's a cleanliness issue too, but that's a problem. We want to slow down the absorption of those sugars. We want to protect our gut from them. The pre-meal drink that I talk about, and let's give it to you, is actually a prebiotic. So what it's doing is it's giving your good gut microbiome something to eat. So how many of you guys take probiotics or heard you should take probiotics? Well, yeah, you can take probiotics, but understand, if you're just dumping probiotics into a gut that's full of sugar, they're not thriving and they're not growing and they're not really doing you a lot of good. You have to give them the fuel that they can use to thrive, and that's what this packet does. I just dropped a link in on YouTube, Facebook, you guys. That's where you're going to find it. That link is also at the top of my YouTube page, and that will take you right to the protocol. It's going to give you some more answers about it. And yes, so there's a tea component to this too. My day actually looks like this. I have 2 tea. The tea helps give me mental clarity and energy. And it gives you, there's so many benefits. I just did a video yesterday on the 13 benefits of the chlorogenic acids, just one piece of this tea. We'll talk more about the tea later, but I have this tea twice a day. It's shutting down my hunger. It's giving me mental clarity. It's helping me be more insulin sensitive. Insulin is getting used better. It's helping me with growth hormone and ketones in a fasted state. Yes, I can have it in a fasted state. I just fasted 2 days in a row this last week because I wanted to reset myself. And all I had was these and this. And it didn't break my fast. Yes, I sell it, PETA. So I sell it, by the way, because I used it. And after nothing else worked for me, this worked immediately. And I was like, oh, like my mental clarity started coming back. My blood pressure started dropping. My inflammation started going away. I have a knee that was supposed to be replaced in 2021. it's functioning better than it was before I started the system. That's why I talk about all these health issues, you guys, because almost everything on the list, it's not over here, but almost everything on that list I suffered with. PETA, just go to my profile. It won't let me drop the link in the chat. So go to my profile link, just tap on my picture. When the white box comes up, tap on that. There's red light symbols in my profile. The link for it is right there. And here's the thing. When you buy from me, you're going to get me. You get access to me. You get my number. You can get my WhatsApp. You can text me. I have people texting me all day, asking me questions, even small questions like I want more of the tea this month, or I need an extra fiber, or do we have, a cleanse, or do we have magnesium? Do we have, yeah, we have all that. But I answer all your questions. Okay. I'm here. It's not just on live. I answer those questions, but you're also getting a 90-day money back guarantee because I'm authorized by the company. It comes directly from the company. So I'm not handling anything. You're not having to worry about it. You're getting that 90-day money back guarantee. So use it for 90 days. If it's not showing you, better mental health, better mental clarity, less inflammation, weight loss, all of the things, then you just simply call the company and say, I need my money back. And all you have to have is the lot numbers. You don't have to send anything back. You get that. But we also have, we're standardized. We guarantee that it's standardized. So the components in it that we say that are going to work for these things, it's standardized. None of the other products, or very few of them out there, are standardized to make sure that you're actually getting what you need. And then, so that's quality. And you're guaranteed to get it within a certain amount of time. We have distribution centers in 50 areas throughout the world, and we're operating in 60 countries. So you guys, I don't care if you're in the US, if you're in the UAE, I do care, but it doesn't matter where you're at. That link that you see on my page gets you to the appropriate place for you so that you're getting it delivered right to you within your own country's regulations. We work hard to follow regulations throughout countries. By the way, the products are both listed in the PDR. This is a science product. It's not just a junk thing that everybody's out there selling because it's the hot thing of the moment. This is backed by science, and it's really changed people's lives like mine. So you guys, I appreciate you. YouTube, thank you guys for subscribing. I appreciate that. We're getting up there. I'm actually starting to get requests to be on other podcasts, which is exciting. And so hopefully you'll see more of me out there. I want to say, you guys, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm just an everyday person like you all who got really sick. And when nobody could help me, I threw a dart at the wall, which was called the system. I got better. And I'm like, man, I know, because I was the person who was bringing you back into the room, taking your blood pressure, drawing your blood. I've drawn so much blood. And no doctor that I worked for was giving these answers. And so I know if I wasn't getting them, y'all aren't getting them either. That's why I'm here. I don't proclaim to be any specialist. I just know that there's answers out there that we're not getting, and I'm trying to bring them to you. And this system is doing it without all the damage to your system that the other things do. So you guys, in the link before I go, because I do have to go, there is a place for my WhatsApp. It's encrypted. It's safe. If you need to message me, if you need to talk more, get more information, please do that. I'm very approachable and very real. So I would love to help any of you out. And you guys, thank you for spending the time to invest in yourself and understand how much better you can get in a real way. All right. So I will be back Monday to talk about how insulin is causing fat and how all of that's causing inflammation and how all of that's causing a number of these things that are making us all sick. You guys, I love you all. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you Monday. If I have time, I might pop on this weekend, but I usually spend my weekend with my family. I would suggest you guys do that too. PETA, I would love to be the one to assist you, so thank you for that. So we will see you guys Monday. Have a good one. Bye, everyone.